I every day I get a bit more surprised at things regarding God because the first thing that recently, right now, like a few days ago, not a few days, I think a week ago, if I'm not mistaken, my mother was helping me with money this entire time. These 2 years that I've been unemployed, my mother and my grandmother have been helping me. And I thought I can get more English students, I can get more people. So I'm going to tell my mom, after this month, you don't need to pay me anymore. And I set that goal. And the time came, and I still needed a few, like at least some uh, four, no, some five students to be able to have enough money. And I started getting very uh, afraid. But I still actually was a lot calmer than my wife, and I still actually was a lot calmer than I would be in any other circumstance. And I prayed to God, I asked God for help. My wife was almost crying because of the situation. Because we couldn't, maybe we wouldn't have enough money to buy food. But the day that would be the day that my mother in normal in the more normal month day would give us the money, and we saw that we did not have the money, was the day that my wife was completely sad because like it became real. We would not have the money. And on the same day, I just got three students, and the two of those students uh, gave me enough classes to fulfill the necessity that I had for the entire month. It really
Nice.
we were
God
saved. We
provides.
were exactly. God provides, and I actually felt that. I felt like God was with me, and God saved my family from this hardship.
Very nice. Very nice. Welcome, Rosalie. Glad you could join us.
Good evening, everyone. I
How
got
you
stu-
Good
I got
evening.
stuck in Walmart.
Oh, damn Walmart.
Yeah,
Um,
I was doing real good until I had to wait in line for over a half an hour, and it's like
yeah.
really. So
How you
anyway,
feel?
like I said, I was doing real good until I had to stand in line for half an hour.
Oh,
And got a
I'm not
little shaky, and then I had to grab one of the carts. So after that, so I'm home and groceries are put away, and
okay. Good.
I am done for the evening. So I'm all yours.
Very,
Excuse
very
me.
good. You had us scared there for a minute.
Why?
Well, no, your blood clot.
Oh well, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's not a clot; it's a sausage.
Oh, hey,
Yeah, try from the knee to the middle of the groin area. Yeah, it's gonna take weeks to clear that up. Scared me too.
hey, hey, hey. Rosalie, this is Victor. He's a new. Hopefully, someone who'll be joining us regularly. Um,
Shalom,
he
Victor.
he and his wife live in Brazil. They're Brazil,
Hello.
and they're in the process of converting to Judaism eventually.
Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
God has been very much a light for me in this, helping me a lot, teaching me a lot, and generally directing me regarding Judaism.
Good. That's why we keep him.
That's very good.
I don't know, James, if you've met Victor.
I don't think I have. Shalom, Victor. How you doing? Welcome.
Shalom, James. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where are you guys from?
I'm in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
And I am in a
A
little
very
I'm in a little blurb called West Olive, Michigan.
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma is a very creative name for the city.
And they're very creative folks here. Definitely.
I live in the state of São Paulo, right beside the city of São Paulo, so
There you
can't
go.
say much. It's wrong.
I live next to a trash dump. There's that.
Half my city is a trash dump if I stop to think about it.
Fair enough. So, what do you guys want to talk about? I'm kind of leaving it open forum tonight, so there's no set topic or anything. What's on your mind? Somebody, anybody.
Oof, man.
Well, I
I had
remember you were telling Gav about. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did anyone said something?
No, I said I had a topic prepared, but then I lost all my notes. So
It happens. It happens.
Oh no.
Pretend that you did it all along for intentionally just so that people can talk and say their ideas.
what's that now?
Pretend that you did it intentionally so that people can get this day to talk about their ideas and so forth.
If I didn't do it intentionally, I left it on the bus.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's my wife's turn in the car yesterday. So
your wife did what?
it was my wife's turn to take the car yesterday, so I had to take the bus to and from work.
I see.
So somebody has something. I know somebody has a question, or I don't know, something.
One thing that entered my mind yesterday, because yesterday I remember we were talking about the different groups of Jews, the different traditions of Judaism, and you talked about Jewish superstition, and you mentioned demons.
Yeah.
I thought that demons were something that weren't that superstition, but like were something that some Jews agreed about and some Jews didn't. Yeah, is demons a complete superstition, complete nonsense? Well, what are demons?
Well, it depends on who you ask. When I'm in context, um, what I meant regarding especially North African Jews is that they feature a lot very heavily in their beliefs about things that go on in the world.
So they are basically a lot more superstitious than the normal Jew would be.
Oh, extremely.
So they would be like the Celtic version of Jews.
Yeah. Oh no joke. No joke. Extremely. These are people that they'll take, they'll write little sentences in Hebrew, and they'll say a blessing over it, and they'll lock it up like in an amulet around their neck because they think it protects them.
That's bizarre.
It,
I remember
Well, not really, because you do it with a mezuzah when you put it on your door.
yeah, that's not meant to protect you.
Well,
That's not the point
isn't
of
it
it.
meant like
Yeah, I know.
remembrance? Isn't it
Right.
like a remembrance? Like every time you have to pass through the door, you have to think about that. And
That's the idea. Yeah.
is it that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like it's actually kind of normal, right? A lot of people do that. They have a lot of that kind of thing. My family itself has that a lot. Even the time that I started converting to Judaism, that I actually converted, I remember both my mother and my father would constantly tell me like, "Oh, do this, that is going to bring money to your life, and do this, and this is going to protect you."
Oh
And
yeah.
that, and I was like, it's very common. People do that a lot.
Same thing. It's the same things that a lot of North African Jews will do, um, as well as many other things that are questionable. Let's put it that way. You know,
In a
they
way, can you say that it's because what? Sorry.
no, go ahead.
In a way, can you say that it's because people are instinctively sometimes not able to put their full trust in God, and they're trying to make things happen.
Well, I think in their case specifically, it's more of a cultural thing. They were influenced very heavily by the dominant civilization around them, which would be Berbers, which are nomadic tribes that live in the desert, and they're extremely superstitious. They believe that every oasis, every rock has some type of spirit or demon and everything. I think it's a foreign influence more than anything.
As to opposed to the Jews that believe that every blade of grass has an angel with it. I don't know.
I don't agree with them either.
Okay.
I always thought that made sense, because if you think about angels being the messengers of God and God being constantly creating existence, wouldn't it be normal that everything in creation has an angel that keeps it working?
No, not to me, not to my mind. No.
That's just Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
But, these people believe that they can cast spells. A lot of them do.
That's witchcraft.
Exactly. A lot of them practice various forms of what could be considered necromancy, trying to contact the dead.
Ooh.
Also
Voodoo too, huh?
yeah.
And there are Orthodox Jews that do that.
Oh yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Just because you're forbidden from doing
Bizarre.
that doesn't mean some people don't try to find loopholes.
That's freaky.
I actually saw a case today that I was actually wanting to tell you and to know if you heard of it. Ultra Orthodox rabbis that sentenced a dog to be stoned to death because he was, in their mind, the reincarnation of some guy who said something bad to one of their judges. Did you hear about that in Jerusalem?
No, but that sounds like the type of medieval retardation I'm talking about.
Wow.
They literally thought that the dog was the reincarnation of a bad guy who treated their judge wrongly, and they wanted children to stone it to death.
See, that sounds more like Hinduism.
Yeah. Right. Well,
One of the worst things you can come back as is a dog.
Yeah. That doesn't shock me, but it's not kosher. There's a lot of things that have seeped into Judaism over the years that are not particularly good. But yeah, it's not that uncommon to find Orthodox Jews, especially again North African Sephardim and Hasidic Jews, mystical Orthodox Ashkenazim. It's not that uncommon to find them praying to the dead in one way or another.
One of my favorite commentaries of Genesis, chapter 2 about Adam and Eve is Rabbi Hirsch. Samson Hirsch, is that how you, what is it?
Samson Raphael Hirsch, yeah.
He has one of the best commentations of Genesis. I read it every so often with James in the group. That everyone is born with a clean slate, perfect and without blemish, and yada yada. It's to think that you're somehow it's no different than when you come with the other group we just came from. It's no real difference if you have a handicap. You know what I mean? You're starting with a handicap that goes against everything we're supposed to believe as Jewish people.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and there's also you'll have it's very controversial, and most people that even engage in this will not talk about it. But there is this concept. It's briefly mentioned in the Talmud and a couple other places, called pulsa denura. which is Aramaic. It means lashes of fire, and it's a prayer you say that you kind of chant, and the entire idea behind it is that you're basically trying to wield the power of an angel to kill someone that's wicked. Some people think it's just a metaphorical thing, but there are people that I've talked to and met who claim that it actually works and that they've done it. There are people, Pulsa de Nora was they a bunch of rabbis prayed for that for Yitzhak Rabin, and a week later he was shot. So, and then Ariel Sharon, the same thing. A week later he had a stroke. So it's definitely. I'm not saying it was.
Magic does work.
Huh?
Sorry.
No, it's
I said magic does work. It's just not good. Like my mother does magic. I know a lot of people who do magic and things that actually. It's creepy that it really, really does work. Uh, but that doesn't mean that it's good, right?
I don't believe personally that it works, but um, no, of course it's not good. It's not something you're supposed to do.
Nothing happens by coincidence, and it's all from God,
I,
one way or another.
yeah,
I mean,
but
that was the whole shtick of Pharaoh, the Pharaoh's argument with Moses. Oh, Moses comes to him and does one thing, throws the sticks and the snakes. Oh, okay, God, your God's just a magician, a warlock. I have warlocks too. I can bring out my temple priests and do things too.
Balaam.
Balaam,
yeah,
sure,
they
there
do
you
magic.
go. Whatever you
Uh,
could do, I could do better, right? You know. But what it comes down to, though, I mean, doing it in Kadosh and Hashem, doing it in a holy way for God.
yeah, they're different things, right? Because at least like one thing that I noticed about magicians is that even working or not, believing that it works or not, the main problem I see about it is that it really cuts God from the equation, from the mind of the person. Because when my mother tells me, I can help you with this in this way, I can do this magic thing that will help you regarding this. There's no God in her word in any moment. Like she's not saying I'm gonna pray to God and ask God to help you. Oh son, pray to God, talk to God, be closer to God. It's just I'm gonna do this sympathetic trick and it's going to resolve your problems.
She's like
Believing it,
manipulating the elements of the world to somehow create mazel in some way, right? I mean, isn't that what you're saying?
yeah, it's
It's like
basically
being your own God.
the main. Exactly, that's the main problem. My mother's a great person. Don't get me wrong. She's a good person in general, but I think that she is just wrong in this, and that she when you do this, when you try to use magic to do something, one thing that I notice is that people that do that end up instead of talking about God, instead of using the suffering, the problem that they have to try to get closer to God, they just try to ease the suffering and resolve the suffering by themselves. It's a lost opportunity.
It's hard to not to fall into it. The other day I was not feeling well, and I'm like davening extra, little more than I normally do, during chakras, and then afterwards I'm like, I need something else. I grabbed the mezuzah, I put it in my coat pocket. Like I'm carrying it around all day. Like I don't do that. I mean, but I'm just going mashugana like silly. It's like, what is that supposed to do? What do you know what I mean? It's like it's not a good thing, but it is, I don't know, human nature. I don't know.
We're afraid of the unknown.
No.
Is there any advice on getting up the nerve to give an apology when you've been cruel or whatever? Do the sages give us anything to go on besides "do it, kid"? Anything?
What's the context?
Well, if one person might have said something they shouldn't, how does one get up the nerve to? Are there any words of confidence about getting up the nerve to follow through and never be cruel, never be cowardly, and when you do, always make amends?
Right. So you approach the person with kind words and you tell them, "Hey, look, I'm sorry. Won't happen again. I didn't mean to hurt you. Can you forgive me?" And if they say yes, great. If they say no, you did your part. It's forgiven anyway.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
What'd you say?
No, it wasn't me. It was it's a friend, and I don't know if there's
Okay. I thought. Okay. Oh yeah, asking for a friend. That's kind of like when my wife asked me what happened to the car. I was like, my wife's husband hit it.
That's good. I'll have to remember that one.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Fair enough.
Rabbi, one thing. Regarding, I remember yesterday we were talking about lineages. It actually just made me have a question. Uh,
What
when I
What?
when I what?
what were we talking about?
Remember when we were talking about lineages? You told me how
Yeah,
how
lineage.
you had the how your family had the nerve to actually have their lineage up all the way to Adam, and I was all like, oh my God. And I was thinking, I looked, I started researching about that out of curiosity, and I saw some people say that when you convert, it is like you are a newborn child, that you're reborn as a son of Abraham.
Right.
Uh, are you considered in this sense then? Your lineage starts anew as a descendant of Abraham.
Uh, in a spirit for a convert, in a spiritual sense, sure.
If
And
you
that's interesting.
if you convert, do you still have to say Kaddish for your parents, your
You're al-
biological parents?
you're allowed to, but you're not required to.
Oh wow, okay, that's interesting.
So basically, for all intents and purposes, you're Abraham's son.
Right. Spiritually, yes.
So
That's
what?
actually kind of
I was going to say, if that's the case, then what? Then should you use Kaddish for Abraham and Sarah? you
Oh,
know?
I said spiritually.
Okay. Oh,
We don't say physical descendants of Abraham don't say Kaddish for Abraham and Sarah.
yeah, because they died a long time ago, but it'll be very very long ago.
well, wouldn't it like retroactively activate or something? I don't know.
No.
This was Stump the Rabbi night. I was trying to get a good one.
No.
I asked because, like I said to you, it really frustrated me a lot, the idea that my family wasn't able to keep their lineage intact, and we were cut off because I'm descendant of Sephardim, just to tell the other ones. As far as I can tell, because my family has this story ever since ever that we are descendant of Jews from Portugal, but taking their word into account, we are, and it always frustrated me the fact that I can't get that far back. So it kind of makes me feel better knowing that, hey, actually, I do have an intact line. It's me, then Abraham, then Terah, and then go all the way back to Adam.
Right. Right. I mean, most born Jews today don't have what's called a Sefer Yuchsin. They don't have a lineage scroll or a lineage document. I'd say probably 10% of Jews do, maybe. Probably a little less, actually.
I find it very fascinating, and do some of them actually have documents like they are from actually from Ephraim, that they're actually from Benjamin, and so forth. Do they have that? Like,
But
are there still?
I know people that have them for that are um, Kohanim, that are priests, that are Levites. I've seen people's one with Benjamin. A very good friend of mine, Yosef Dayan. His lineage, his father's family is Davidic, so he's technically eligible to be the Messiah. Um, I mean, yeah, again, there's not that many out there. I've only ever seen a handful, including my own.
So you're a descendant of David.
No, I'm not. A friend is.
Ah, at least you can be the friend of a king.
Right. There are a lot of people who are descendant of King David, though. It's actually not that uncommon. Um, he's just one of the few that can prove
It's
it.
kind of incredible. It's kind of incredible if you stop to think about it, like because when you look in the Bible, it literally says that they will maintain the priests, they will maintain the Levites, and they will maintain the line of David, and it actually happened. Like in no other country can they say like a lineage that's 3,000 years old, like the line of David, they actually have it right there from antiquity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Gav, have the Jewish people, or Israel for that matter, always been rather literate?
Very, yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the distinguishing features, especially during the Dark Ages and Middle Ages. You know, when most people were illiterate, every Jewish child knew how to read and write. Even Josephus writes about that 2,000 years ago. Most
Did they
people.
write with different? I'm sorry. Uh, I was just going to ask. Did they write with different type of? Because parchment was very expensive in those times. Did they use something else to write? Because they all seem to know how to write and read. So did they use something cheaper?
Yeah, papyrus.
Ah, I see.
Writing on an animal hide would be very expensive. That type of parchment, the type of material you have to use for like a Torah scroll would be very expensive. It's still very expensive. Trust me, I used to make them. It's extremely expensive. Um, but regular papyrus, like made from like dried out palm leaves or something, that'd be pretty inexpensive. That'd be very cheap. So I assume that's probably what most people would use.
When did has it always been a custom that one writes a Torah scroll in one's life? Is that a later edition? A later or am I getting that wrong?
No. So there's a mitzvah that you should have a Torah scroll written. Now you can do that yourself. Most people do not. You can fulfill that mitzvah by paying someone else to do it or by contributing to a fund for someone else to do it. The professional scribe.
Ah. That's like every like a family. We're talking a family would have their own.
Some,
Some, yeah,
yes. Wealthy families, sure.
sure.
Um,
I always see leaflets hanging around the temple I go to, where you can sign up. You put your real name, your address, and a donation, and you can sponsor a Torah scroll.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's common. That's, I guess. I mean, I did it. I mean, that's. I don't know. Does it count?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100% it counts. 100%. Most people, it's unrealistic to expect the average man to write a Torah scroll. It's completely unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
It is a massive undertaking. It seems like, oh, you're just copying words from one sheet to another. No, it's ridiculously. Okay, it takes about a year to do one. Okay, that's working an 8-hour day, 6 days a week. So it's not something that it would ever be intended that every person literally sit down and make a Torah scroll. So you can kind of get around that by going to someone that does know how to make one and who does make them for a living, and helping, contributing a little bit to the effort.
I mean, can you imagine you put weeks, months into writing, and then you wrote one letter that looked like a resh, that looked like a dalet, and oof, and that's it.
Well, no. The scroll is bound together in layers. I mean, if you make one letter mistake at the end, it's not like you have to throw the whole thing out. You just have to get rid of that section. You have to redo that section.
That page.
Oh, okay.
Which,
And
by the
also,
way,
parchment is very resistant. So you can scrape words off that you did wrong a lot of times actually on parchment.
well, if you're writing a Torah scroll, you can't. You have to get a whole new section.
That explains also why it takes so long and why it's so expensive.
Yeah, a Torah scroll on average costs about $50,000 to make. That's the person's time, and that's the materials as well. I mean, the material that goes into making a Torah scroll is very, very specific, and not a lot of people have it, and it's very hard to come by. So it's expensive stuff to begin with, and then it's a lot of labor for the person that works on it.
If you see one, I mean, it's very handwritten. There are light, and the one that I saw, there were light lines to keep it level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. They brought it out and let me see it. The first synagogue I went to, and that's when it hit me that this was a handwritten. That's when it dawned on me. Yeah, things dawn. You know things. You're not stupid. You went to school, but wow, boom, this is a handwritten document. This is literally everything, and it was just every letter, every character was like a work of art. It was perfect.
Yep.
And the paper, I'm sorry, is the paper made with specific types of animal of a specific type of animal because it has to be a specific paper, right? So, but what makes it special?
It's cloth. It comes from the hide of a kosher animal. It has to be tanned, and it has to be made thin, cut very thin. So it's to make a Torah scroll, you have to use the hides of. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many cows or sheep to make it. So again, it's very expensive.
It could be actually a very good business to get animals to do that, right? If you stop thinking about it.
So you get it from the kosher butcher. You get it from the kosher slaughterhouse. That's what I used to do anyway. They would save the hides for me, and I would buy the hides.
And you prepared it yourself.
Yes.
It must have smelled bad if I.
You have no idea. Awful.
Poor your wife.
This is before I even met my wife. I stopped doing this years ago.
It makes sense because it's not exactly the best first thing to greet your a prospective wife, right? Let enter my home and the whole smell.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Anything else? Anybody? Huh. Tough crowd.
Someone's got to have something.
I got
You
nothing.
always have a lot. You always have a lot of questions along the day, but when somebody's asked directly, "Do you have any questions?" You get that blank moment.
Yeah.
Trying to remember things. Uh, One question specifically regarding Israel, if I can. Uh, when I look at Israel, at people, things about Israel, it I never really get the grasp of how hot.
Ooh.
Oh, somebody's been raptured.
Huh. Look at that. I've been left here. Damn. Oh, well.
He'll be back. His wife's husband did it. There he is.
Hello,
Hello.
You're back.
I'm back. I fell. Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was asking, since you lived in America as well, you wouldn't be able to compare it to Brazil because it's a different country. You've never been here. But
I've never been
how
here.
hot does Israel get? Like, how hot is Israel in a normal day?
Well, it depends on what region you're in and what time of the year. I live in the coastal plain, which is ridiculously hot this time of the year. There are hotter places. When I was in the army the first time, we were stationed in the Judean desert in the south, near the Dead Sea. Um, in the daytime, around noon, 1 o'clock, and like this time of year, July, August, it's not unheard of to get up into the in Fahrenheit would be 120s, 130s.
Oh God.
Yeah, you can't even really move.
No.
How much is that in Canadian? Like, because here we use Celsius.
It's in the 40s, I think.
40s, yeah.
Uh,
42.
oh, I've been to 40s before. Here in Brazil, sometimes you get that, but it's rare. It's like very, very hot, rare stuff.
It's not uncommon for my area to get up to the hundred and teens either. So every now and then, usually around August,
Yeah.
we'll get it for about a
Uh,
week and then it's done.
Good, that's only a week, right?
Yeah, but when you're working in front of a stove or an oven or a fryer unit, it
Yeah.
gets worse.
Ah, damn.
Yeah.
I was just asking because I wanted to know how much inside a furnace I'm going to get when I get there.
Well, again, it depends on where you live. Like up in the north, it doesn't get as bad. Um, It'll still be hot in the summer, but it won't be ridiculous. But up in the north, they have the harshest winters here. Believe it or not, it does snow here. If you live in the north, you will experience that.
Yay.
I saw photos of that. Yeah, uh, it seemed very nice actually.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm
trust me, in a
I'm
country where
think,
no one's used to it, the novelty wears off after about 5 minutes.
pretty much.
No, yeah. I know. I lived in Ireland in the States. I actually told my wife that it was best if we lived in a place that does not snow, and then we visit a place that snows. Visiting a place that snows is awesome, as long as it doesn't come back with you.
Right.
Because she never saw it. She never saw snow in her life.
Yeah. Okay.
But because she's from Brazil and here it doesn't snow. But I'm thinking of moving to Judea or Samaria because of the prices and because of the stronger Orthodox community there and that kind of thing. Maybe Ariel or
You get the best of both worlds, basically, as far as weather goes. In the winter, it will snow, and in the summer, it will be hot. But with the elevation, it's not so bad.
sounds kind of like New York.
Well, I mean, the
I
elevation.
remember in New what?
The elevation is going to be higher than New York.
Because I remember in New York when I was a child, I always thought when it was at summer, I was like, oh, I'm dying, please get cold. And then when it was winter, oh, please get hot. And it was like an endless cycle of, come on, weather change.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yep. And in the South, it's just insane in the summer when you can hardly even go outside.
It's where you
I
set your
imagine a lot of
AC to
people.
85.
Yeah.
And you go outside and your glasses fog up.
Oh, yeah.
And they've done that.
You have to stay off the pavement because the soles of your boots can actually start to melt.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And it causes
I
a
imagine.
around you as kind of this optic distortion. You can't really see very far, so it's easy to get lost if you go out, so you don't go out, basically.
Wow.
Like the heat waves coming off pavement.
Yeah, well, coming off the ground, the desert
Yeah.
forest, you don't go far, you don't leave base or anything. You don't. We would only go on exercises at night, and the thing is the contrast, because during the middle of the day in the summer, in a place like Arad, it gets up to 120 degrees. At night, it gets down close to freezing in the same 24-hour cycle. So it's pretty schizophrenic.
Desert temperature, right?
Right.
Desert weather. It's crazy.
You dig in
I
the
imagine a
sand
lot
to
of
see your-
people.
Go ahead.
I imagine a lot of people in the South live in air conditioners, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, you have to have air conditioning, otherwise you're going to die. It's just how it's going to work. You're going to put your air conditioner on full blast. It's going to get you down to like 90 inside, and that's going to feel like an ice box compared to what's outside. Basically, what that feels like.
So
this,
basically,
Yeah,
why
but
do
it's a
people
dry
go
heat.
to the South?
it's a dry
Because
heat.
everything that's worse
I know,
seems
I
to be
hate that.
there.
A dry heat. Okay. You know what else is a dry heat? A bonfire. You don't see me sticking my ass in one of those, do you?
I know, but I had to throw that in there. You know that.
Oh, it's a dry heat. So is a crematorium.
Yeah, there you go.
I keep thinking, why do people live there? Because like when I look about the South, it seems like it has everything that is bad. Like Hamas attacks there all the time. It is the closest thing to the Christian notion of hell that you could get. So why do people go there? Is it very cheap to live there?
Well, first things first, overwhelmingly, they don't. The South is very underpopulated. They're trying to incentivize people to move there. But yes, it is cheaper than most of the country. So that's why a lot of the border towns on Gaza are very poor communities.
Makes sense. Do you have any suggestion as to, because when you look at Jews have a lot of daily things that rituals that they do. Even when they go to the bathroom, they have a specific prayer to do afterwards.
Mhm.
Uh, Bnei Noach don't really have anything. So, do you have any suggestion as to any sources of uh, daily practices for Bnei Noach?
No, I mean they don't really exist. Um, it's just 7 laws. That's all it is. It's all being but Ben Noach is, which is why I recommend people to do more.
Yeah.
that we made up
It's all,
turned into religions.
Yeah.
yeah. There's always that risk, right? I was thinking more like to be able to actually have a relationship with God in a more profound way, even while you're a ben Noach. Because when I look at how Bnei Noach generally are treated, it seems a lot like, you guys just exist and be there and be happy. And it's like, it doesn't really feel like there is much to it. I want to become a Jew, so that doesn't really bother me because I'm going to leave that. But when I think about it, it's like, why would anyone want to be it? Like it doesn't really seem that they actually do anything. It's just it's like being secular but believing in God.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's not much to it. I mean, it really is just that simple. I mean, so it's just the 7 laws, and you're not really supposed to add to those. You're not really supposed to add any additional religious practices. And the very few, I mean, the things that you can do that are extra, I guess you're not commanded to, so you're not really getting reward for it. So I mean, it's kind of a catch-22.
It's
It's kind of like some.
go ahead,
So
man. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's kind of like something that would probably because like nowadays before we are in the messianic era, before we are in an era in which we can actually have such a much closer link to God, maybe it looks a lot more dimmer because we are in this specific era, and the Jews are more tied to the fate of what will come after that with the redemption and so forth. But when we get to that point, maybe it will look a lot less dimmer because everything will be full of God. We will people, the Bnei Noach will actually maybe live in a much more godly way. So it could actually look less like they're doing nothing just by the way they experience reality, maybe.
Perhaps so. Perhaps so.
What were you going to say, Jim?
Oh, not much. It's Noahide was it for me for I guess 20 years now. Gosh, when I started calling myself, when I was told this is what you are, um, you become very accustomed to it. Um, I'm kind of at a place now where, gosh, if I knew this 10 years ago, you know, um, because there's so much more to it. What I don't, the one thing I don't understand, I can get Torah. Honestly, I can get Halakha. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I can't get enough of it. But what baffles me is the distance, I think, that is always spoken. But remember, you're not a Jew. It was the very thing is there's no encouragement to take on a mitzvah you're not commanded to for the sake of just living a better life. I mean, they say you're free to, but there's also kind of a, and that's what I don't understand is if you're bringing people closer to God, okay, you get the 7 laws after 5, 6 years, you know, why not have a nice celebration of Shabbos? It's not yours to keep. It's not, but you can celebrate its existence, especially in an era where we have Friday and Sunday and Monday, you know, all these, you know, if we, you know, recognizing God's day, well, how is this really a problem? How are we breaking Noahide law by celebrating that which comes from the very document texts, you know, traditions that tell us about the, you know, about these laws? And they're, I thought it was real. I really believe there is this, okay, I'm just a Noahide. And that's okay. I should be happy being just a Noahide. And I'm not unhappy. I could say that, but yeah, I don't understand the need to bear such a distance if you're going to be bringing up halacha to non-Jews in the nations. You know, is it right that we should kind of scare them off? Is it really an immigration issue? You know what I'm saying? That's what's rolling around in my mind about it anyway.
The danger that's often associated with teaching Noahide's halacha is that if you start keeping it, people will mistake you for being us. And that anything you do wrong from a lack of education or a lack of understanding will reflect upon us. So that's part of it.
That makes
maybe one could actually have the Noahides use something that distinguishes them from Jews, like anything really.
Well, yeah, the thing is, the average non-Jew isn't going to tell the difference. Some guy not that long ago was selling quote-unquote Noahide tzitzit that were rainbow colored and they were tied differently than the way Jews tie them or whatever. The average non-Jew isn't going to be able to tell that apart from. He's like, oh, it's what Jews do except a different color. This guy's probably Jewish. And so if he sees a Noahide that's taken on the mitzvah of tzitzis but hasn't taken on the kosher law, so what you have is you have a Noahide who may have a beard, who may wear a kippah or whatever, who's wearing these quote-unquote Noahide tzitzis, and a non-Jew sees him buying, you know, a ham and cheese sandwich at a deli because he hasn't taken on kosher yet. What kind of message does that send? The reality is, it doesn't send a good one.
Yeah, that's fair.
I've heard of people bringing special prayer shawls that were rainbowed,
Yeah,
and things like that, and that's like, well, that seems to me to be the creation of a new religion. If you're left with nothing, what are they going to do? You know.
You can be sad. I mean, it's really, being a Noahide is rough. It's really rough because on the one hand, you have a limited amount of things you can. It's really a limited number of things that you can't do. It's mostly prohibitions that you're keeping by proxy anyway, for the most part. So yeah, you're allowed. You can do these 7 things. You're not really supposed to institute new practices for yourselves or anything like that. Anything you do extra has to be kind of a private thing. It has to be done different than the way that we do it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
isn't it possible for them to have minhag?
What's that again?
minhag, custom. Not really. Not really, because that's instituting new religious practices, which is a no-no.
The tough thing about being a Noahide is, how do I fit in to Goyville? You know,
Very careful.
I can only hate Christmas so much. And I'm not a fan of the holiday. I'm sorry. I am a humbug kind of guy. I will not admit it. I will not hide from it anymore. But at the same time, you got to give up the ghost. Okay. Am I supposed to be offended when someone says Merry Christmas to me? Of course not. And that's the trick of being, is like, when where do we draw the line? Where, there's a custom of the people to put up lights at this time of year. I know people who don't go to church who do it, or it's just something that people do. Businesses do it. Does that mean that it's a pagan practice to do so at this point? When this is far beyond paganism, this is just a custom of the people. I had to learn this, and that's what we have to learn when your mind blown by this, and it's true, and the rest of the world does look stupid. I gotta admit, conversionitis, I've heard of it. I had it. Path talked to me about it last night. Yiskak did. Yeah, you kind of go radical a bit, and everybody does. And for Noahides, for us, because we have Christian backgrounds, we have secular backgrounds. It's where can we draw the line? Because you can't. It's hard to live in a gulf. It's hard to live with a moat around you. It's hard to be Noah. I think it's an unhealthy way to live personally, but anyway, yeah, that's what's tough.
Especially because we don't really have a congregation, right? We don't really congregate. Like there's no Ben Noah synagogue. There's no. It's basically the problem that when when Jews experience God, they experience God collectively. It's also individually, but also collectively. And all other humans in the world also do that. So like every single religion has their collective element. And it seems very much wired into us that we should practice religion collectively. And the Ben Noah is kind of like an anomaly in that because they literally have nothing to practice. And there's no way that they can actually try to experience God ritualistically, communally, in any fashion whatsoever. So it creates kind of like a dissonance regarding what that person is in relation to his identity or in relation to God.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, most of the Noahides here congregate in mosques. Most of them are secretly Noahide, but they're outwardly Muslim, so they don't upset their families. So it's tricky.
Wow.
That's rough. In a way, now I start to think about it. Noahides can go to synagogues, right? They can go to like Jewish synagogues.
Yeah,
Sure.
there's one around, sure.
Would that be like a way around it in a way? Like they can do things that the Jews do, but they can do things with the Jews. Not exactly the same things, but they can do things with them. Like they can go to a festival that Jews are making. They can
Yeah.
stay in synagogue with the Jews and listen to the rabbi speak and do the prayers.
Yes, but it's again the catch-22 of it is you'll always, even though you may live in that area, you may come to that synagogue every day or every Shabbat, whatever. You'll still be kind of the perpetual outsider because you don't count for minyan. You can't get an aliyah to be caught up to the Torah. No one can date or marry you. So you're kind of stuck in limbo.
It kind of looks like the nations are uh, half. There's something missing regarding them. Maybe it's just something that's not for this time period. Maybe when the Mashiach comes, the prophets will give the nations of the world their own traditions. I don't know, but like it doesn't. It just seems like there's something missing regarding their spirituality. They're just like half empty regarding it.
In many ways, sure.
Is there a reason for it? Like, have Jews ever stopped to debate that and think about it? Is there a reason why the nations of the world are so left out spiritually?
I mean, there.
I
Do we
don't.
ever talk about it or debate it? Really? No, not for 2,000 years. We don't really think about what the outside world is doing. Only now, when we're in relative comfort, do we have the time to even think about that. Um, it's not something that we can fix for others. For one, um, and another thing as well. I mean, if we look at the Bible and the prophets and everything, it's pretty clear that until the end times, the overwhelming majority of the people of the world are going to be, for lack of a better term, blind to the reality that they live in kind of a truncated existence spiritually. Um,
I think they already do.
they already what?
Are are out of it.
How so?
Well, gee, we have this little group on the coastlines called the liberals, who can't see anything past their hate, and most of them are non-religious. So that just says it all right there.
Right.
Well, I'm thankful I was taught the Shiva Mitzvot. Um, it is kind of saddening as an American to see the churches kind of depleting a bit. Not what they used to be, and yet I find mega churches popping up, here in the city.
Sure.
And so while there is a social loss, I mean, there is that I'm glad that I'm not sheep. It's nice that maybe I could be a shepherd, or maybe I could I don't have to be a sheep. I'm very grateful. I don't want to talk down on, but the Noahidism, I think, is a great effort. It's a beginning. It's incomplete, and may we complete it soon. I just want to get that out there because I don't want to be a naysayer. It's a trick. I think it's a trick. Make you want more Torah. See, yeah, get a little bit of taste of this guy. Ooh,
The bottom line is, and this I always catch flack for saying this.
Uh-oh.
No, the Noahide laws, much like the story of Noah in the Bible, it's humanity's lifeboat. It's the bare minimum standard you have to follow in order to not be labeled a heathen worthy of destruction and judgment. It's a Bronze Age. It's basically a standard that takes a caveman and says, "Here, you deserve to be here now." That's basically. I mean, look, the Noah in the land of Israel. If we read Rambam, if we go into the laws of wars and kings, non-Jews that live in Eretz Yisrael can only live here if they accept the Noahide laws. Non-Jews that don't accept the Noahide laws, we have to wage war on them until either they leave or they accept them. I mean, so it's a very basic standard of morality for a world that at one time, people say nowadays in 2018, oh, not murder, don't steal, don't screw sheep, don't steal, don't
rip the leg off a giraffe and chow down.
Right. It sounds so bad. Of course, we're not going to do these things. People forget at one point in human history, this was asking a lot. So it's something to keep in mind.
sincerely, just for us, when you look at the pharaohs of Egypt, don't have sex with your sister wasn't exactly something that obvious to them for some reason.
No, that's what they all did, which is why they all had really, really short, miserable lives. I mean, King Tut looked like a medical experiment gone wrong.
Right.
He had buck teeth and bowed hips and everything like that. You know, the Egyptian royalty, they practiced consanguinity, which in order to continue the royal bloodline, you had to conceive with your biological sister. So I mean,
You think that would be logically wrong, right?
Well, they did the same in Hawaii as well.
yes, the Hawaiian kings did that as well. But Egypt, that's what they did for. I mean, look, even Egyptians by the end of Egypt as a civilization, and they weren't even really Egyptian anymore. They were still doing that. Cleopatra was married to her brother. It was just what was expected of you. It's what.
In Greece, children were male children were having sex with adult males as well.
Yeah, it's called pedestry. Yes.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I was reading.
It was considered culturally acceptable.
Yeah, in ancient Greece, it was perfectly normal. It was considered no homo for men to bang other men until they got married, and then you had to stop. Like that was kind of like the normal thing. Like, oh, hey guys, want to get together this weekend and bone? Yeah, cool. I'll see you there. Oh no, I'm getting married next week. I can't do this anymore. Like that was basically the norm, and that was not considered a problem for most of them. So,
Hey, nobody hates Plato's Symposium more than I do. Oh, God, I hated that philosophy class.
I love philosophy.
It's funny.
Oh,
It's funny when we look at that because, like, we look at it and we think that it's very obvious, but when you look at history, don't sacrifice humans, don't have sex with your sister or kids.
Right.
So many things that they just did a lot.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, people. So yeah, in our day and age, when the world is for the most part very civilized, the Noahide laws do not seem so profound. 3,000 years ago, I mean, look, the 7 laws would have brought down the Aztec Empire. Where I can't steal, kill, or sacrifice or eat flesh torn from a living animal. What am I doing here? I have no purpose anymore.
wow.
So
Pretty much. Kind of insane.
Yeah.
In a way, that actually shows how we are actually getting close to the Messianic age, maybe, right? Because
humanity has definitely progressed. It's not where it needs to be, but it has definitely progressed. There's no denying that. I mean, I think for most of human history, human beings, for the most part, the overwhelming majority of them could be accurately, if not charitably, described as absolute barbarian savages. So, I mean, it is what it is. So there's definitely been progress. Give me 1 second. I hear my son crying.
Okay.
What I found profound about the 7 Noahide laws wasn't the laws themselves. It was the source. You know, I started, doing the Haftorah every week. We'd read it. Me and a couple of friends, we'd study it. And then we got into the Torah reading. And I've been, kind of taking a look at the Parsha every week. And that's when that's when law, that's when it exploded. That's, I don't know what I like more, Torah or Noahide law. I think Torah, but that's part of it. But you know what I'm saying? There's so much more to learn. It still gives one guidance. There's an art to Torah that I think anybody can pick up.
Yeah.
It could be very useful and beneficial to anybody. A bare bones. Everyone's got the book anyway. It's in every motel in the States and Canada. I mean, it's not like it's not known. Why not go to the source text and study it the right way from the right people? That's good. That was another thing that Noahides got a lot of flack for, was studying Torah. You're not allowed to study Torah. That's worthy of death. Who are you to talk about that? Big, backlash to Noahide dudes just having a Torah study. They wanted nothing to do with it. Blew my mind. Are you kidding me? I mean, I've already got the Bible anyway. That I get my Mabel gave it to me when I was 3. I still got it. You know, do you mean to not go to the Hebrew source? What do you say to that?
AFU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very incredible when you start to think about it, because one thing that I notice that differentiates God from any other, and like I told you, I used to be a polytheist. Like, I used to study how they thought a lot. So one thing that I notice that differentiates God from any other deity that I've seen so far is that God is consistently warning people before doing anything. Like
Yes.
the no-hide laws, they are so much an incredible piece of law, because it's saying like, I warned you. Like it's literally saying, uh, I actually got your oldest living ancestor and told him, this is what I expect from you. So you guys can't say you weren't warned.
That's true.
And it's consistently so. Like when you look at the Torah, uh, God never does anything bad to the Jews without warning them beforehand. He says, "This is what I want you to do. This is what I'm going to get you guys. These are the rules. You know, my house rules. These are the things that I accept. These are the things that I don't accept. And if I don't, and if you do this, this is exactly what will happen to you." He literally says, "You guys will literally eat the flesh of your kids inside walls." So like he said all of it. He didn't like pepper it. Peppers made it look less gruesome. He was completely graphic on what would happen. I find that incredible how upfront God is. How he it exactly makes clear what he wants and what he will do.
Yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat nothing.
Exactly. And that's completely opposite to any other religion. Like when you look at the ancient Romans, ancient Greeks, ancient Norse, it's all like some bad thing happened, and then they try to find out which god got offended and why. It's like, oh, something
Right.
bad happened. Oh, well, so why does this happen? Like, it's so arbitrary. It's so like, oh, we have no idea what we're doing. But that's just not so regarding Judaism. It's very clear why something happens.
And the thing is that the prophecies, if you read the prophets, those still stand for today as well. And if people can't see that, they don't read it, and they go, well, what happened? I don't get it. Well, if you kept your nose in Torah and everything else and read the prophecies and the Psalms and everything else, you'd have a very good idea.
Definitely, definitely. Like, oh, well, one example of that, what you're saying, that I saw a while ago, is when I was looking at the prophets, and I don't remember who said it. I think it was Jeremiah. I'm not sure, but I think it was Jeremiah, that he was saying how the Jews would be in exile in Babylon for 70 years, and after that they would return to their home. When I read that, I literally the hair went on ends on my arm. It was like 70 years after the Israel was formed, Jerusalem was finally recognized by the U.S. and now by a lot of other countries.
Right.
It it feels like, wow, this prophecy still has some relevance, still can be compared to some day to present day facts.
But the only thing that we really have to watch out for is some of the Christians find that this is our way in to convert Jews. And that has to be watched out for.
What's the no-hide?
No, with the Christian countries coming in, with the Messianics and the other factions, they said, "Oh, we got a foothold in Jerusalem. We can now preach Christ and get every Jew to convert over." That's an issue that's kind of scaring a few factions over there as well.
Definitely, I can imagine the messianic plague that's happening, especially in the Slavic countries, right? Russia and so forth. It's really being something dangerous. But I'm glad that Jews for Judaism exists now because that's basically their main goal, right? Trying to
Keep
put
Jews
that
Jewish,
down.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Rabbi Skolbeck, yeah.
yeah, Rabbi Skolbeck, he was basically who converted me to the idea of Judaism. A
Right.
great man, great rabbi.
Yes, he
And
is.
actually, also Rabbi Tovia Singer. He is also a
Right.
very good guy.
Yeah, I went through those paths as well. And the thing is that what you have to try to remember is I try to say that everybody has their place. You know, it's like to become a Noahide would be like going through kindergarten or grade school. Then you move up, you know, to like a middle school, and then you move up to like a high school. And then where do you go from there? I mean, if you want to convert, okay, you're getting into college and other knowledges as well. But you just got to remember, just don't get stuck in there unless that's who you are and that's what you think your calling is. But for most people that I've found, I mean, I took a lot of heat from a lot of groups because I turned around and said, well, you know what? I went into the Noahide thing, but then again, the gear movement is more me. And I do not like being called a Noahide. I don't. That just groups too many people together. And you know what? It's like I graduated from that class already. I'm ready to move on to something bigger. And I want to know more.
What would you call yourself?
A righteous Gentile that likes the Torah, basically, or a gear. And a lot of people
Okay.
have issues with that as well, but I'm like right on the fence. I don't know if I'm called to be Jewish or not. So I'm staying until I know for sure that this is what I'm called to do. I would rather be called a gear. And if I ever get the chance to get to Israel and, you know, get a ger toshav marking or whatever, that's fine. But I don't see that happening. But I will stand the ground for my Jewish people. I just will. It's like I almost feel like I'm one of the outside Marines, you know, like the reserves, kind of the Army or Navy, you
Hmm.
know, reserves. It's like they'll
Yeah.
send us in first, and we'll fight first, and then they'll send the pros in. You know what I mean? But there's a place for everybody.
I think if the Christians want to go missionize in Jerusalem, maybe we should bring back those big public debates like we hear about back in the day.
Yeah.
And
Well, not only that, but here's what's going to shock a lot of people. I'm perfectly okay with the Christians coming to Jerusalem to missionize, so long as they're missionizing the Arabs, the people.
Yes.
So there's a little bit more peaceful religion.
Definitely. Well, that actually may gives me into a question, Gav. And I think I know your answer because I saw you commenting regarding this once. But what is your stance regarding uh, making the Jewish state uh, um, religious again? Like actually making Torah part the constitution of the Jewish state, actually reviving how your ancestors were supposed to do Torah and so forth. What are your views regarding that?
My views are generally that it should not be forced, and it's something that's going to happen gradually, no matter what. Because even though that religious Jews are, mm, it's kind of hard to pin down an exact number. Let's say 20% of the Jewish population here. We're outbreeding secular Jews here. So eventually we're going to be the majority at one point or another in a couple of generations. So I don't think now is the time to really try and change things through legislation. And I certainly do not think now is the time to forcibly try to overthrow the government and impose a religious state. I think it's something that's going to naturally evolve in a few generations.
Definitely, definitely. Not even thinking about overthrowing government. Just
Well, there
I
are people
think
that
that
do
would be right.
advocate. There are people that do advocate. I used to be one of them, and not anymore.
Yeah.
It's
The main problem about revolutions is the chaos that it creates, and you never really know if you're going to get what you signed up for.
right. And
Uh,
the French sure as hell didn't. Um,
yeah, I still cannot understand how people love the French Revolution. It it was
oh,
crazy wrong in so many levels.
oh, I mean, and what they created afterwards. For all that bloodbath, it failed. It didn't last. It collapsed after
Exactly.
they had to. So I mean, they probably would have been better off if they just stayed happy with a really crappy monarchy. Um,
Yeah, it could be that this crappy monarchy would evolve into something closer to the British monarchy or anything. Like it wasn't really necessary for it to get so bad.
France was
Things
going
could
to
have gradually gotten there.
right. France was going to become democratic before too long, anyway. It just got there way too abruptly. There's a special place in hell for people who try to change the world too fast.
Definitely. Because it has a lot of arrogance in it, doesn't it? It has a lot of you put yourself kind of as a god because you think that you are the one that knows exactly how things should be done, and you are the one who has to do it.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of arrogance to it. Like I believe that Torah should be the Constitution of Israel one day, but like you said, I think it should actually be like the Jews becoming ever more religious, and one day it just be natural to say, hey, we are a religious country. We are Torah observant. Let's make Torah the constitution of this place. And while we're at it, why don't we just choose a king and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Now I have a question.
Okay.
Uh, you once said to me that Jews can't simply choose a king out of right now and make the temple and so forth, and that there were reasons for it.
Yeah.
What are they?
So, just like getting our country back was a gradual process that culminated in us establishing our independence in 1948. And just like reclaiming our sovereignty in Jerusalem is a process going back 50 years from 1967 until the present day, we're just now getting other countries on board that this is ours. The U.S. has, Guatemala has, I believe Slovakia has. Recognized now, more and more are recognizing it. So too with the temple. Only we're just not there yet. We're not at a point where people are ready for us to have a temple yet. We're not ready for us to have a temple yet. Let's be honest. um, and there's a number of things that would have to happen first. It's not feasible right now. We'd have to have some type of understanding with our neighbors. That's the only way I can really put it. And that's right now we're just not there. I mean, if we were to try to bulldoze the Al Aqsa Mosque to rebuild the temple, it would start World War III. It would be absolutely
Definitely. And regarding the king, would be the same thing, right? Because uh, even though we could think that Jews having their king because of their religion and so forth makes sense, but I can imagine that would be the best fuel that the UN could ever have to just say they just became a theocratic monarch, absolute monarchy, so we have reasons to destroy them.
well. They try to do that anyway, but that's um, yeah. Well, yeah, we would need a
So
king. We would need a number of things. And plus, I don't think a lot of people really appreciate what a monumental building project that would be. In and of
So
itself,
they're
take a long
so they're
time.
basically pragmatic reasons, right? It's not like an angel has to come to Earth and shoot light bolts and so forth. It's just real politics, real things that if this is done now, it could lead to a bloodbath. So let's do it when it's better situation. Is pragmatic stuff.
Right. Well, I'm in favor of letting it naturally evolve. I think at some point in the future, maybe even in my lifetime, I could see the beginnings of people being okay with it. When the world starts to come around a little bit more to the idea. Um, but yeah, I'm not anticipating it anytime soon. Again, I don't think it's a thing that should be forced.
And there has been a lot of forcing of a lot of things too.
Yeah, it's not always good results that come from it either.
No.
And one thing I would also ask regarding the monarchy, when Mashiach comes, it would be an absolute monarchy, like an actual traditional monarchy. Would it be like the king actually having full power like traditional kings had?
So Judaism places restrictions on kings, what kings are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And Judaism also mandates a court system, the Sanhedrin, which is another thing we need to work on.
Well, then there's the Kohen Gadol. Would he not have as much or maybe more authority in certain areas than the king?
He would probably be the head religious authority as far as what happens in the temple goes and things like that. But the king would be the overall like head of state.
Okay.
And oh no, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, the building of the temple itself would be a big issue with what can be made and what can't be made and how it has to be done.
Yes. Yep.
That alone would really stall a lot of things.
Right.
I know some things are, from what I've seen or read, whether it's true or not, I know there have been a lot of things that have already been made and and waiting to put together. But even still, I mean, when you can't make certain things with metal, and it can only be done a certain way. It's like right now we have the laser technology to do that, which they didn't have, that we are aware of back then. But it's going to be a major project.
Oh, it'll take years.
Yeah.
Decades. Without, back then when it was rebuilt, especially Herod's temple, the end of the second temple when he renovated it, it took, I think, a couple decades.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, that's without power tools. So
yeah,
it's amazing what you can accomplish when there's slavery and you can just not pay people. Not that I'm advocating that.
Right.
Good to know.
How long did Solomon's temple take?
A long time. It was started and completed in his lifetime. I know that, but it was much smaller than the second temple. So, but it still took a while.
I remember the question that I was going to make. I remember once when we were talking, you said that you didn't like the Nascent Sanhedrin, the group Nascent Sanhedrin.
Sanhedrin, yeah, they're phony. They're not the real deal.
Why?
Because
what would the Sanhedrin need to have? Like, what would it be necessary for a group to actually be considered truly the Sanhedrin?
Well, first things first, they have to meet on the Temple Mount. You can see why that's a problem. Um, and they'd have to know how a Sanhedrin works. This one clearly doesn't.
But besides that, what would it need? Like, what would be the conditions? Like, if this happened, we know that the Sanhedrin definitely is instituted.
They don't have. It would have to be a religious government because they don't have any teeth. There's no pronouncement they can make that's actually binding on anyone. They can enforce.
Ah, I see. So it has to be a governmental institution. It has to be something that the government embraced.
Yes. This is a bunch of old dudes that get together twice a year. Okay, this is not an actual functioning court.
Understood. So we would know that the Sanhedrin it is back simply by the fact that the government has instituted it, basically.
Or the government actually has allowed it, or the government has nothing to do with the nascent Sanhedrin now. I mean, they don't. Anything the nascent Sanhedrin rules on has no teeth. They have no mechanisms to enforce it.
They're basically just another rabbinical court.
Yeah, only with 70 instead of 3. Well, 71.
Understood. I'm going to the bathroom. Be right back. 1 second.
No problem.
Yeah. Now is the current Sanhedrin all Jewish or no?
Oh yeah, you'd have to be.
Well, I know, but okay, but the Knesset isn't, right?
No, the Knesset's a secular government institution. No, you don't have to be Jewish to run for the Knesset. You just have to be an Israeli citizen.
That's what I thought. So how's the baby doing? Is he doing good?
Very good.
Good.
His nights and his days mixed up.
That'll happen. He just likes hearing your voice, and if he can't hear it during the day, he hears you at night,
Oh yeah.
and that's a good thing.
Yep. My buddy.
Oh goodness. So I'm sorry about your. I'm sorry you left your papers and you were stuck at work.
Oh no. I'm sorry I left you guys hanging.
Oh, not a
I couldn't
problem.
even log back in to let you know that I wasn't going to be able to make it.
No, that's fine. James got a room or made a room, just a regular room where nothing was live or nothing. It's different than this. And he and I and John just hung out and talked about a bunch of crap. We were talking business. Is like, oh boy, let's talk business. And you said, yeah, James is gonna like it. And I'm going, oh no, not what they did to me at Walmart.
Why? What they do to you, Walmart?
That will be for a better discussion off live air. But they have combined our deli and our bakery into one unit now.
Uh-huh.
And that's not going to work out well at all because some of the stores, the deli is at one end of the building and the bakery is at the other end of the building.
Uh-huh.
They're not side by side like some of the new, it's like the super centers are. And some of the jobs are supposed to be shared, and there's no way that's going to happen. And they're discontinuing things, from what I understand. For our part of it, they are going to farm out the making of the sub sandwiches and the salads that we do at night because they're getting rid of that shift, and which I think is stupid. And they're farming this out to private contractors. And yeah, it's not good. I'm almost afraid to go back to that job. In fact, before I left, I had tried to transfer into another area, and right now that other area still has that job open. And I keep telling people in that area, just remind him I still want that job, because I don't know. I really don't know if I will be able to do my job anymore because now not only I do cleanup at night. I mean, they changed the hours from 2 to 11 now to 1 to 10. There's only like two shifts. We have like a 6 a.m. to 3 or 4 p.m. and a 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And if I get stuck cleaning all by myself, that means now whatever bakery leaves and doesn't do, since we are combined, that means I stay and do our stuff to make sure it gets done, because if I don't stay and do it, I know that it's going to be left there for me to do on top of everything else the next day. So it's just easier to stay the half an hour, 45 minutes to finish it up, and it's all done and over with. And now, if I'm going to have to do bakery stuff, that's a whole new ball game because our bakery is like a store within a store, and it's huge, and their cleanup and their procedures take a lot longer than mine. And it's like I don't know how I'm going to do it. So it's yeah, or if I can even do it, because when I go back in, I'm going to have weight restrictions and certain restrictions for the first month or so until I build up my stamina to where I can actually physically do most of the stuff without getting tired out or hurting or anything else like that. And it's I'm gonna go in saying, okay, I'll give it my best shot, but you know what? When I have to say when, I have to say when. And if you don't like it, too bad. I tried to transfer and you won't let me go. And that's a different discussion anyway. So that's all I have to. I'm being nice, and that's all I'm leaving for that for now until afterwards when we're not live. So it's been stressing me out too, and that's not a good thing either.
No, it's not.
So, but hey, and I love my job. That's just it. If we have the correct amount of help to do it, and everybody does their job, I love it. But that's not normally the case.
No, it's not the case anywhere.
And it's a shame because the benefits that we have are really good, and it's not a bad job. It's just that it's time consuming, and there's not enough time to do everything they want you to get done. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So, okay. Victor's back. Go ahead and talk, Victor. I have to mute out here for a minute for medical reasons, and I will be back ASAP.
Okay then. Nice to meet you, Rosali.
No, I'll be right back. So just keep
okay,
talking to
okay.
Gav and keep asking questions.
Okay, I'll try. So it's just you, me, and James for now, right?
Seems to be.
Okay. So now I don't really know what to say.
I'm at a loss myself.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I always try to get a hand on Gav around the week, but being on the same chat room with him, and I can't really think about any question.
Gav, what were you going to talk about last night? What was the subject? Or
I had a whole class prepared on business ethics, and then I lost my notes.
oh, nice.
Yeah, I left them on the bus like an idiot.
like a person that is very busy, so his mind gets sometimes distracted. It happens.
Can you give us any highlights?
Off the top of my, sorry, that was my dryer.
Whoa.
Off the top of my head, no, not really. I mean, this is all written out, pretty detailed stuff. And,
Maybe it'll be of use to somebody who finds it.
yeah, hopefully.
There's that.
Successful at business would avoid riding that bus. I would avoid riding it if I could. Meet some interesting people on the bus. Let me tell you what.
Can't imagine. I'm always curious about those kind of slice of life things in Israel, like day to day things. One thing that I heard you guys do, and that you have no idea how bizarre that is for people in Brazil. Like going to a van, you actually get the money and you pass it along to people on the van or the bus, and they give it to the driver.
Right.
I find that bizarre. Like if it wasn't Brazil, you would never see that money again. It seems Israeli society is very ordered and very. It has, even though people say a lot of bad things about it as well, like bad driving, rude. It, it still has a lot of that Jewish morality to it, right? You see that in the population.
Well, security's different. I've heard that it's a different kind of, from the States. It was a different kind of order, or there's a different kind of freedom that you have there that you wouldn't have here. Vice versa. It's definitely flavored differently. I've heard. I've yet to go. Hopefully one day.
Yeah, like, every time I hear people speak about it, it's a very mixed reaction. It's like it's horrible sometimes, but I could not imagine myself being anywhere else. Like that's literally how I see people reacting to it. It's like I get angry all the time, but I love being here. It really makes you curious as to how living there is. Do you have any insights regarding that, Gav, that you would like to share?
What if you get froze?
Yeah, I think he froze.
The mic is on, but Gab is off.
His mic is on, true. But
Maybe he's doing laundry.
Yeah.
Always a
Dryer did go
possibility.
off. Dryer did go off.
True.
Well, at least he's not raptured. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what we call them. So, you lose people on Google Plus or on the Google Hangouts. We got raptured.
He got knocked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually a Christian joke you're saying.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it is also. It also is. I thought it just was another one.
Yeah, well, it's a clean Christian joke, so we can tell it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I didn't even know about rapture until recently, until this year.
Seriously? Wow.
Seriously, I was raised in an Umbanda family. They were Christians, but they weren't really Christians. It's a complicated mix of Catholicism, native African Yoruba religion, and native Brazilian religion, and Oriental stuff. So it wasn't really Christian. So there's a lot of things I really don't know.
You were shopping off the rack basically religiously.
Yeah. It was really a strange way to start your religious life.
Yep.
Sincerely, it actually helped me in a way because I think I have a lot of uh, knowledge about a lot of different religions, like even polytheistic ones, because I was a polytheist. So like I can
Right.
say from experience that something is that these religions aren't very good.
Right.
So I got that at least as an experience, a positive thing.
Well, James and I are former Episcopalians, and I was married to Roman Catholics, so I get both of them really well. And yeah, it's rough. But when it comes down right to it, I'm so glad I'm not being lied to by the churches anymore. I mean, when you're 50 years old and found out you've been lied to for 50 years, that kind of pisses you off. You kind of harbor
I
some
can
resentment.
imagine.
You kind of harbor some resentment.
Definitely. I'm 26 right now, and even though I'm young, I feel a bit of guilt because regarding my religious choices in the past.
Well, that's in the
Because
past,
yeah, that's what we have to think about, right? We have to
right?
think. Well, what is done is done. I was literally anti-Abrahamism. Like I thought every Abrahamic religion was like Christianity or Islam, you know.
Islam, yeah.
So I remember at a time when I was younger, I literally said like Christianity is a cancer, Islam is a cancer, and Judaism is probably like how do you call it, a benign tumor. It's bad, but at least it doesn't spread. I literally believe that when I was younger.
It's not funny.
It's kind of funny.
Oh my God.
I was a funny kid, even though it was completely horrible, a horrible thought.
Wow. Well, that's changing now. It's spreading.
So yeah, it's spreading, and thank God. Like I really have a lot of regret on what I thought about God in the past and how wrong I was entirely. Sometimes I actually pray to God and think and say like, "Thank you so much because I really don't deserve anything you're giving me." Like, if I were you, I wouldn't be giving me these things, you know. I always very grateful because of that, and I see how God is ever forgiving because I don't think I deserve anything that He gives me.
Way to be humble. But he is there to give you. So always be grateful. The only way you can do a good mitzvah is you know how to give. And if God's willing to give to you, say thank you and pass it forward.
Definitely, it's actually that. Like, I think when we start to think to see everything as a gift from God, we end up being happier in life. You know, uh, you get less bitter about things because currently I'm basically just living, and we're on financially speaking, I have enough to live relatively comfortably in just that. before Judaism, I would probably be frustrated. Like, oh, I can't, I just escape the end of the month with just that, and I probably will have to be very careful next month and so forth, and feeling like life was always without any without enough even the luxury to go out whenever any other weekend to go to grab something to eat. And nowadays, I feel blessed with anything I got. Like I'm like I am alive and I have enough to live. It's a paradigm shift for me in a way. I'm just happy.
My struggle kind of goes with how do I handle the stuff that God gives me I didn't want?
Ooh, there's
Be
your lesson.
thankful. Be thankful. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I know. But how do you deal with that? That's the trick for me. I'll take all the blessings all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who's to say the struggle isn't a blessing either?
Right. It's just that it doesn't always. I haven't really gotten to that where every time it happens, I can just I'm getting there.
Sometimes if you look at it in a third person and like kind of plot it out on a piece of paper, like it wasn't you it's happening to, but it was someone else, that kind of helps too.
One thing that I do, I don't know if it would be useful to you, but I I came to the realization that everything in the end will be good. And I look at everything that's of bad that happened in my life and everything that's bad that happened in the world, and think like the Holocaust happened. Like some very very bad things happened, and some people ended up their lives in the cold without food and dying horribly. And I was thinking that could happen to me. I could end up dying horribly or stupidly without any apparent reason. But if there's a God in the world, and there is, and everything that happens is for a reason, everything that happens is calculated for a reason, then everything will ultimately come to good. So I think the best hope you can have is trust in trusting God, is thinking God is good. So no matter how much I suffer, no matter even if I die, it will be for good. And in one day I will be happy about it all. And I will see that it was worth it. That helps me, at least.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% there. I'm better, much better than I've ever been. I think I've gotten better. I mean, maybe I've slithered a little.
It's always a process, right?
It's a habit you have to get into.
But it always feels like you're actually getting somewhere, right? It's
Yes.
You don't feel like you're running in circles.
No, and even if I am, it's okay. I can hack it. I've wondered that. Is this just a treadmill? And if it is, well, fine. Okay. Yeah. I try. I can't shake it. My beliefs tend to change, but Torah doesn't. And it's just what I do and where I go and how I think out and about my day. I'll something will happen and I'll think halakhically what would be the best thing to do, playing it out of my mind or whatever. A lot of it's on instinct, but I can't get away from it. And As flawed as I continue to be, I think it could be a lot worse without it. I do believe that. I would be a lot right. I'm really not the same person I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
I feel like I'm not the same person I was a year ago.
I can agree to that.
It's kind of incredible, right? Like there are moments in your life, those big moments in your life when you think even the guy a year ago doesn't seem like me anymore.
So how long have you been interested or, going the way of Judaism? How long's it been?
Very little, a lot less than I actually. You know when you it looks like it's a lot longer than it is. Uh, I think I've been interested in Judaism since right in the beginning of this year, January probably. So it's been January, February. I don't know. We're in June, in July. So 6 months.
All right.